Hello, and a warm welcome and a very big thank you to each and every one of you, the 6,000 plus supporters of my Change.org petition. Ask why the Department of Health is refusing to investigate elderly care at Cheltenham General. Now let me warn you in advance that this recording is not going to be slick throughout, nor ultra professional, as I may well falter at times, perhaps quite badly. But what I can assure you is that it comes at you in the very best of good faith and from the heart. Now the recording is being made in order to update you on the events of Thursday, March the 14th, 2024, when, as many of you will already know, I held another protest coinciding with the Gloucestershire Hospitals NHS Foundation Trust's latest public board meeting against the backdrop of Cheltenham General, together with the Gloucestershire Royal Hospital, situated some 8 miles away, one of the Trust's major constituent parts. Now, as ever, the protest was confined to the public highway, the footpath running alongside the meeting venue, and was definitively outside of the perimeters of the hospital's own grounds, which, as it turned out on the day, was just as well, for another different protest taking place later the very same afternoon and on the same spot culminated in the aggrieved party having the police called to arrest him on grounds that extended to harassment. For myself, at least, another day, another protest. Same old protest uniform, red coat, white beard, but I've dug out once more for the camera today. But, as always, a new placard. So many different issues within this thread to bring to public awareness, so very many different relevant issues. Now, the photograph on the petition update that routed you here was of the placards that I displayed during my first protest back in October. Behind me you can catch a glimpse of the placard that I hoisted the other Thursday, by now urging the Trust to use its powers to act to secure better outcomes for its elderly charges, the Trust's most vulnerable group of patients, by dint of so many of them unfortunately no longer enjoying full mental capacity. Now, my leaflets on the day ran along the same lines, but incorporated also from the text of the petition my faithful reassertion that open, vigorously, vehemently and unmistakably expressed opposition and resistance to enforcement of end of life at Cheltenham was being denied and thereby being covered up by this Trust as far back as 2017. So my leaflets on the day included everything that was and is on the petition on the placard behind me. And here is one of those leaflets. Now, what I've centred on is calling into question the Trust's own long-standing maxim, best care for all, as I genuinely do not believe that that is what has always been afforded to elderly dementia patients pitching up in the orbit of certain of this Trust Care of the Elderly wards over the years. So let's have a look, try and have a look at the leaflet. Here we go. Now I'm going to try and hold it up. Now I can't tell until I look back at the recording whether I've got this. I've tried and failed to do this so many times, but I'm doing my best. I'm trying to get this leaflet into usable size and focus so that you can read it. What I intend to do, in case it isn't, when I distribute my normal email update to the petition tomorrow, based on this recording, I shall include this leaflet as my permitted image and if you cannot see it on the recording, you'll be able to read the small print then. Until then, I shall attempt to read out for myself. Right, you will see the maxim best care for all with a question mark on the right hand side, 3 lines from the top, and then we have an appeal to the trust on the left hand side, insane, standing for Incapacity Act 2005 brackets dementia, NHS enabled, state euthanasia question mark, applicable by law but never misapplied, end of life care, and the appeal on the right, help, Hippocratic oath, end our abuse, listen to us, prevent this here from happening as frequently, as unaccountably frequently as it has been down the years. What is needed in this department is a new broom to sweep clean. On the other side of the leaflet, as I said, this was from the petition. This is a recapitulation of what the trust sustainedly did in relation to my own family, having failed to offer the second opinion that in this setting, end of life only, the hospital unilaterally has to offer. The trust then mounted a campaign of misrepresentation. There had been no obvious conflict of opinion, and therefore they had not needed to give a second opinion. Now, the arguments here went on for 40 minutes. They were far more varied, far greater in number than there was space to accommodate, either on this leaflet or in a petition or on the corresponding placard back in the day. Now let's put the leaflet to one side, and you can always look at it tomorrow. This trust should always have had the ways and means to reduce the frequency of invocation of end of life in relation to the numbers of deaths that has been presenting so disturbingly incongruously at Cheltenham down the span of no fewer than 8 separate years, and which now appears to be being allowed to transfer across to Gloucestershire Royal also. It should not be beyond the wit of this trust now to identify and establish the cause and to do something positive about it, to take some positive action. Unless, of course, we are to assume that this has always been the trust's own chosen path down which to go. Which, as I am sure that would be the very last thing this trust would wish for or allow the public to think, is the reason why it is for an independent external investigation that I continue to press. Finally, my media release on the day read as follows. Today's protest is to bring to the attention of the general public, in the interests of their own safety, the issue of whether the numbers of their elderly loved ones failing to survive admission to certain of this trust's care of the elderly wards would be fewer, were those wards focus on maintaining treatment for the elderly rather than seeking to withhold or withdraw it, to be greater. For many of those elderly loved ones will no longer have full mental capacity for one reason or another, such as dementia, and their own so-called best interests in terms of what levels of treatment to allow them, or whether even to afford them any treatment at all, will therefore be being decided not by them themselves, nor even in accordance with their own family's wishes, which is what it is so important for the public to grasp, but by the hospital. And not always, if I may put this as diplomatically as I ever could, along the most clear or consistent or objective of lines. Now today I am requesting that after years of stalling, this trust finally pass for independent and therefore external investigation, whether over the winter of 2016 to 2017 on one particular care of the elderly ward at Cheltenham General this was the case. For all the statistics and figures ever prized from this trust's at times unwilling grasp would appear to show that it was, and very much so. Very, very much so. And here I am at the end, and I've lost the thread. Well, I did tell you, didn't I? 4 questions bear answering, finally. First of all, what can the trust tell us about what was happening at Cheltenham over the winter of 2016 to 2017? Secondly, what is the trust prepared to divulge now as to what may be happening across the Gloucestershire Royal also? Thirdly, can the public be assured that all linkage back from now to that earlier deeply suspect period for negative outcomes for elderly patients, many without full mental capacity, has been severed since? And fourthly, the outstanding question, if not, why not? Now I ask you to await the normal email update based on this recording tomorrow, simply to look at the leaflet. Now I thank you all for your time and attention, and now until the next protest I can get rid of the white beard. Thank you all again.